Good morning. Welcome to Councillor's Corner. Today I have with me Councillor Iain Angus, and we're going to be talking about the vacancy policy for City Hall. And Iain has brought forward a resolution. And Iain, would you like to explain what you brought forward, what kind of proposal you have, and why you did that?
Well, thanks, Aldo. We've always struggled on council with what to do when we have a vacancy, whether it's the at-large or in the ward councillors, somebody for whatever reason stops being a member of council mid-term or during their term. In the past, we've waited until that event happened, and then we try to make a decision. Should we go for a by-election? Should we appoint the first runner-up? Should we do something else? We tried in 2011 to get a policy adopted by council, and they chose not to. But with the results of this past election, the great interest in the results, I thought it was time to put together, or to have administration put together, a policy that would govern what to do. And in short, the policy that administration is proposing is that during the first 3 years of a term, if there's a vacancy, it's automatically a by-election. So we go back to the people in the ward or at large to say, who do you want to represent you? If it's in the final year, if it's within 3 months of the election, there'll be no replacement. We'll leave the seat empty. But in those other 9 months, council would strike a committee who would seek applications, and likely that would include the first and second and third runner-ups if they're still interested to apply. And then council would make, or the committee would make a recommendation to council as to which individual should be appointed to fill out that term.
Okay, now Iain, obviously there's going to be people out there thinking, well, wait a minute, I voted for a second runner-up, why is he not automatically in there? Could you sort of elaborate on some situations, and I can think of one myself personally, where you have a strong candidate, and you have a strong candidate running in a ward. Other people say, well, you know what, he's running, I'm backing out, I'm not going to go in. But is there other...
Yeah. No, that's a very good example. I look at it from the point of view as that council does not know what the thinking was in that ward or at large during that election. That was the first runner-up really the next preference, or were they the minority recipient, of the minority view from that ward or at large? We all know that in this last election, the event center was one of the key issues.
Yes.
And those of us who got elected at large, and by and large in the wards, were pro-event center supporters. But a lot of the runner-ups were anti-event center. So let's fast forward 2 years from now. Decision's been made one way or the other whether we have an event center. It's either we got the money and we're building it, or we didn't get the money and it's on the shelf. That becomes less important at election time, in a by-election. And so it becomes a clean race. That if it's a by-election, then the first runner-up, of course, would be welcome to put their name forward. But so would others within the ward or at large. And let me touch on at large too, because I think that's a different kettle of fish. We all know that the incumbents have a very excellent chance of getting reelected. It's been very, very seldom has an incumbent been defeated at the polls in the at-large race. But it does happen.
It happens.
Okay. So if there's a by-election, as opposed to automatically accepting the first runner-up, then there's a whole new cast involved. Nobody who has been the incumbent immediately before this election, that everybody has a chance of becoming the new fifth place at-large candidate or seat in city council. So I think it's fair. It leaves the decision up to the hands of the voter for the first 3 years. And then in that final year, because it really wouldn't make sense to have a by-election and spend the money, because democracy does cost money, for that final year, doing the committee process, which has been used in other jurisdictions quite successfully, to pick who fills out the term.
Now, Ian, tonight, what do you think is going to happen? How do you sense the council's going to vote, or do you have any idea how they're going to vote tonight?
Well, the sense that I have is that unlike in 2011, more members of council now see the wisdom of adopting a policy ahead of time. Because what that does, it takes the personalities out of it. I mean, if you set a policy now, we don't have any vacancies, and let's hope we don't have any vacancies between now and 2018. But if we do, here's what the rules are going to be. And I think it's much better to put a policy in place than decide when there's a vacancy, oh, I really like that person, I think we'll just appoint them as first runner-up, when they may not represent the interests of that ward or the electorate as a whole.
Ian, thank you very much for coming in this morning. I think you made it pretty clear what your intentions are, and I think they're good intentions. I think that, yes, I know as a councillor, I struggle with situations. I've struggled with it before, and I've always voted for an election and let the people speak, because truly, if that's who they want, that's who they're going to get. But I know that, in, like you said, mentioned before, in strong wards, when you got a strong person running, I know of candidates who chose not to run based on the fact that there's a good person there already. I'll step back, let them run. So,
actually, final point, can you imagine if there was a vacancy in one of our 2 federal ridings, and instead of the current policy, which is you call a by-election, Prime Minister Harper decided to appoint someone to represent us? How do you think that would go down?
I see you're wearing another hat here today. Anyway, Ian, thank you very much for coming in. It's
Thanks,
always
Aldo.
a pleasure. Iain Angus, probably the most seasoned veteran in politics of anyone I know, and probably one of the best councillors in terms of historical content and good, solid advice. Thunder Bay Live, once again, thank you very much. Welcome to Council's Corner. Catch us at thunderbaylive.com. Thank you. Have a great day. Take care.